And
Hello.
welcome to Coffee with Cohen. Today is Tuesday, August 11th, 2026. I'm Phil Cohen, Hoboken City Councilman, and I'm broadcasting to you live from my home in Hoboken. Welcome to this, my 121st Coffee with Cohen community event. Coffee with Cohen is my opportunity to stay in touch with you about important issues affecting our community. Thanks so much for joining me. Today, I am joined by a special guest, New Jersey's 32nd District Assemblywoman Katie Brennan. Welcome back, Katie, to Coffee with Cohen.
Thank you, Councilman.
The last time you were here, you may recall, was in 2025. You were on the Democratic primary campaign trail. And I had the pleasure of going door to door with you at that time. And I'm going to see if I
Thank
can
you.
share a picture of that. Let's see. I think I can do it. Uh, let's see, share the screen. And let's see. Fail to start screen share. Please retry. I'm going to try one more time. I really thought I had it. Let's see. Worst comes to worst, the pictures just will not accompany us. So let's share screen.
It is true. I can verify that we did go to door to door
Failed to
in
screen share.
Hoboken.
All right. Well, I guess we're just not going to show the pictures. I'll try again later. Uh, so yes, we did go. We went door to door, and if memory serves, you came in first in a very crowded field in that election. And Katie, if I wanted to share just a little bit of background about you. Katie is a longtime Jersey City resident, a dedicated public servant who, for the last 16 years, has served as a community advocate for Hudson County residents and for residents across the Garden State. Katie is a trusted policy expert on housing, environmental justice, and protections for survivors of sexual assault, about which she's actually testified before the State House about her personal experiences in a very important way. And I have a picture of that, and I may be able to share it or may not. I may try a little bit later. Katie started her career by taking on Governor Christie in the fight for protecting the state's affordable housing protections. Katie helped secure the biggest influx of funding for affordable homes in New Jersey history. This is all before she was an Assemblywoman, and launched the first ever statewide hospital and housing agency partnership, which is now a national model. Katie earned her master's in urban planning from Rutgers University. I got a JD from Rutgers myself. And starting in January, Katie has been representing all of Hoboken and parts of Jersey City as our representative in the state assembly, along with Hoboken's former mayor, Ravi Bala. Katie, welcome back to Coffee with Cohen.
Thank you. I'm happy to be
So
here
my
again.
first, yeah. So my first question I want to ask you is something about your career in public service that I didn't mention in your bio, but I think is interesting, and I think the
Mm.
viewers of Coffee with Cohen would be interested as well. So for most of your colleagues in Trenton, being an elected assembly representative is both an important responsibility and a privilege to serve the people, but it's their part-time job. The
Mhm.
vast majority of New Jersey Assembly members have other jobs. In contrast, you're someone who was employed when you were running for election. And with your background, you're certainly well qualified to work for many organizations in your area of expertise, but you've chosen to work solely as a state representative as your full-time vocation. And I'm wondering if you could talk about your decision to have no other employer while serving as an elected assemblyman.
Yeah. So thank you. This is something that I knew that I wanted to do because I sometimes when I was running for office, and I repeat it now, I would joke, I know what this job is and I'm trying to do it anyway, which probably makes me nuts. But I had been close enough and worked with legislators that I knew how intense of a job it could be. And I knew that especially in my first term, I there's even knowing what I did, there was gonna be a lot to learn and kind of a lot of unwritten rules. I wanted to dedicate myself fully to the people of Jersey City and Hoboken. And and then I think candidly, there's another part of it of that I just don't think it should be part-time. I
Mm,
wanted to kind of practice what I preach. I think it invites I understand why people need other jobs. The salary used to be quite low. It has been raised. But is lower than a lot of my colleagues make in their other jobs in New Jersey. Um, but it's $82,000, and that's enough for me to make it work and for me and my family. We don't receive health care. So that's another big reason why a lot of people have other jobs, if they need to have health care for their family. But
Assembly members don't get health care?
Assembly members do not get health care. Our
That's
staff
interesting.
do, but our I have it through my husband, and we do not receive health care. We did a long time ago, but that has since been removed. And I think, New York went full time a few years ago, and I think the benefit to that is you pay them a little more and you say no more jobs, and there's no conflicts of interest. I stepped down from boards that I was on because they apply to the state for money. I've spent a lot of my career in government, and I didn't want anything to be untoward. Also, what job would I have that allows me to go to Trenton Mondays and Thursdays, have really erratic hours? Every night there's community meetings and events. How would I go dance with the seniors at the senior center in the middle of the day? And so it wasn't gonna work. I don't know what I would have that wasn't kind of like a no-show job or constantly running up with scheduling issues.
Well, I think that's interesting, and I also think that I think it may be interesting for the viewers of Coffee with Cohen to know that most assembly people do have other jobs, and that you decided not to. So I think that that is
Thank
an
you.
interesting
Yeah.
thing. Um, I want to congratulate you on Governor Sherrill signing the Fair Act into law. The law prohibits certain software pricing practices that can artificially drive up rents, allowing softwares to coordinate pricing through algorithms. Is something that we focused on here in Hoboken and also in Jersey City, and banned some of those practices
Yeah.
locally. Uh, I testified in at the State House along with Mayor Solomon during the last legislative session in support of this type of legislation, to limit landlords' ability to engage in price fixing through algorithms. And this year, I sponsored a resolution that the Hoboken City Council passed unanimously, urging the state legislature to pass your bill
Yep.
that you were the sponsor of and have Governor Sherrill sign the Fair Act into law. I think we met the day that you testified in front of a committee where it was passed. So
Mm.
it was great that it made it all the way through. And I have a picture of the signing ceremony, which I'm not going to be able to share,
I have a pen in my
unfortunately.
desk. Here, we can have props. This is the
Oh,
pen from
that's
the
awesome.
signing.
That's awesome. The governor touched that pen. That's awesome. So, for viewers of Coffee with Cone, could you explain what is algorithmic rent setting and what this new law means for New Jersey residents?
Yeah, so with the rise of algorithms, AI, just technology, which I'm not gonna say is inherently bad, it has been used for evil in some ways. And
Yeah,
in a place like Jersey City and Hoboken, which are already expensive and we're really worried about affordability, you know, I'm not talking about you go on Zillow and you can see what the rent is. I'm not talking about you go to buy a home and you can see, what the mortgage is. No, this is in particular large management companies mostly colluding with one another. They are sharing private data. So if they to effectively, like when you talk about, oh, there's a crisis and we're going to price gouge on toilet paper. That's what it is. It's saying, okay, we're going to set it. And now you can't get a one bedroom in Hoboken for lower than $5,000. I'm just making something up, but that's what it is. And if they all
right.
agree and they all do that, then they are creating a market which doesn't actually exist, and driving up prices. And Jersey City and Hoboken were actually the only 2 municipalities in the state to ban it, so major props to them and the council, but we knew to really enforce this, we were gonna need the AG's office and antitrust laws, and so that is one of the reasons, and we don't live on an island, like, this is a housing market that all affects one another, and we needed the entire state to ban this, and so now they cannot do that.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on
Thank you.
that. I think it's very impressive that as a freshman legislator, you have already secured a signature legislative accomplishment in
Thank you.
your area of housing expertise. And I think it's a reflection of the fact that, unlike many other newbies in the state house, as you mentioned, you actually know your way around Trenton pretty well. And I'm wondering if you could share with folks a little bit about your background and your
Yeah.
understanding of how things work in Trenton, even before you were sworn in to the
Yeah.
State House.
So I was not a legislative staffer. There's a handful of assembly members that were, which is always kind of great to see that happen. But I worked very closely with them through many of my past jobs. If you had asked me 20 years ago if I would spend so much of my career in government, I never would have thought that. I really did not necessarily seek it out. But when I as the councilman mentioned, I have a background in urban planning. I've worked in affordable housing, essentially my whole career. And I quickly saw that there was things that needed to change. And when you, as frustrating as working within the government can be, when you do it, you're automatically helping thousands, if not millions of people when you have to change a program. And so I've worked at every level of government, city, state, with federal money, federal programs, and had worked with legislators or people that, the now commissioner of DCA back when I worked for the state of New Jersey the last time was my counsel from the governor's office. There's a lot of people who have kind of been around and we've worked on legislation together. Um, so that part of it was not foreign to me. I was chief of staff for an agency, the Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency, and so knew somewhat intimately kind of how some of this stuff works, while of course not being a legislator and still having a lot to learn there. I also through some of the more personal things and advocacy for survivors of sexual assault and gender-based violence. I'm a person with a lot of privileges, and that experience did not go in at all how I thought it would, and ended up being kind of a big political circus. Um, but that too really taught me about some of the kind of ickier sides of kind of politics and Trenton and how much needs to change. And so I was well prepared for that kind of aspect of it.
Yeah. And I mean, not only, I mean, did you know your way around Trenton, but I think Trenton knew you pretty well too. I mean, I think some people come onto the scene in the State House as like blank slates or, you didn't really know who they are,
Yeah.
and I guess we'll get to know them. But I was at your swearing in at the War Memorial in Trenton, and Speaker Coughlin referred to the fact that he was excited that in the freshman class it included housing advocate. And I'm pretty certain he wasn't talking about anyone else but you. And he mentioned that in his speech. And, the little bit that I know about the State House is that, what the speaker thinks about the member is important. It's important for the member, and it's important for the people who the member represents in terms of
I
being
think he
able to
was
be
talking
effective.
about me too. And it was part of a joke for the listeners about how it was a very diverse class because only half of us are lawyers. And then he mentioned there's a housing advocate. But I think he was talking about me too. But I did, when I came in, because there was New Jersey, it's physically small but big state. There was, I knew that there was going to be some preconceptions, kind of about my background or how people knew me from the paper, or even that, Ravi and I, Assemblyman Bala and I ran, kind of off the line, right?
Right,
There was a
right.
major political shifts in New Jersey, and a few years ago, it would have been almost impossible for us to win. And so I knew that there was going to be kind of maybe just a little bit of wariness, and
Yeah.
that I would need to show people that I'm in fact just a really big housing and government nerd and want to get some stuff done.
Yeah. And let me just also say that one of the reasons why it was not impossible for you to win, including the line, is because you worked your ass off. And
Thank
I was out there with you knocking on a few doors. And again, don't have the picture to prove it, but it was true. We did. And I've knocked on a few doors in my day as well. And I was really impressed with both the number and the quality of your interactions with people at the door, of the people who I represent in Hoboken. And I know that was also true and made a real impact in Jersey City. And when you're
you.
running against five other people, you know, the
With a lot of money.
true, with a
Them
lot of
having a lot of
money,
money, not me.
with a lot of money and a lot of signs for other people's
Yeah.
names in my neighborhood, who did not do as well as you did because you connected. I believe it's because you connected with people. And I think, and I do think that people are starved for that in political life. I think that's why I try to have a forum like this where people feel like they can have a connection and understand who's representing them and what's important to the people who are representing them. I mean,
Okay.
and I think so. Uh, yeah. So, to your legislative priorities, we talked about housing, which is something you've already had a signature accomplishment in. Uh, but I know that you have a full plate of legislative priorities. It's something that you and I contact each other from time to time about things that are happening.
Okay.
But I'm wondering if you could just share with folks what you see in this
Sure.
legislative session as being your top legislative priorities.
Yeah, speaking of knocking on doors, when I knock on any door in Hoboken or Jersey City, there's a few things that everyone agrees on, and those are that they're worried about it being expensive to live here, and they want the transportation to be better and more reliable. There's also a lot about, of course, just what's going on in the world and healthcare and safety, and but also education. And I was able
Mhm.
to get on the Housing and Education and the Consumer Affairs Committees, which for folks listening, you don't have to be on a committee in order to work on that legislation. It just helps a little bit because, you can talk to your colleagues and are a little bit closer to it. So I've got plenty more housing ones, including things that protect renters, that help just clarity, or really helping municipalities enforce against bad actors. There's lots of good guys, but sometimes their hands are tied, and that it gives a bad name. Um, and just making it in general more affordable. Sometimes I say, you can't a dream in Hoboken or Jersey City, but you can't, sell a house for $200,000 if it takes 600 to build, right?
Right.
And it's just that's where we're at, as a kind of a baseline, and how do we get creative about that? Second is transportation. So the path, NJ Transit and the buses, the light rail, those are all state entities and they are complicated and they cross municipalities and they really need to be done at the state. So I have been working on a bill that I really hope to pass in the fall that's super wonky called land value capture. And it's not you paying a tax. It's here's an example. We talk about having an infill light rail unit at the northwest corner of Hoboken, kind of up by Union City.
Right.
Folks really want that. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not even that expensive to add another stop. It's not a new line. We know that people want that, and those apartments might rent up more quickly. There's all this kind of stuff. It has a value if it was there. So, land value capture, the easiest way to explain it is, let's say that developer is paying $1 today in taxes, but if there was a transit, it's stop, it would be $10. It'd be worth $10. So I say, give me 5 of your future dollars to build that stop now. And that's how they do it. And that's how
I love
New
it.
York has that, Chicago has that, New Jersey does not have this tool for our transit systems. And you can actually do the same thing for bus rapid transit. So that's something that I'm really working on with transit. The Port Authority is very
And
supportive of it.
let me just
Yeah.
say, as the representative where that 15th Street light rail station is, go Katie, go. I mean, we
Yeah.
really, really, really want the city of Hoboken, even though we're in a tough fiscal situation right now, commissioned a feasibility study for that
Yeah.
light rail station. I think it came back showing that not only is it feasible, but it would be one of the busiest
Yes.
light rail stations on the entire line. So not only would it be something that would be great for Hoboken, but it's not just a good thing for it'd be great for the system. It would
Yeah.
increase ridership. It would vitalize a neighborhood that we're investing hundreds of millions of dollars into with new construction, which you can see right now. So anyway, I do want to
Yeah.
hear about your other legislative priorities, but this one really is close, literally close to home for me and the people who I represent in Northwest Hoboken.
Thank you for saying that. It is. It really is something that I hope we can move on, and for all the different systems, it would be good. We know that we need capital dollars into NJ Transit. You want more 126 buses? Okay, let's figure it out. You want the path station to not flood or whatever else is going on at any given point. You need better elevators. This is particularly good for capital projects. So that's something I'm really working on. And it looks like we're going to get to redo the school funding formula. So I've got education priorities, but yes, the 32nd district has been whacked particularly hard by the school funding formula and lost a lot of money. And the other thing is that because we're considered SDA districts, we can't just Hoboken knows this well, the kind of fight about the high school a few years back, we can't just build our own stuff without it being really expensive. And as we continue to have a lot more young families here, we know that we need money for schools, and there has not been a new state bond in many years. So that's a conversation to get money for schools and to upgrade and upkeep at existing schools, as well as the funding formula itself to keep making our education system better and better.
Yeah, I can tell you the Hoboken tax bill arrived a
Yep,
few days ago, and the single largest item on the Hoboken tax bill is Board of Education,
that's the same in
larger than
Jersey City.
municipality, larger municipality. So, I mean, we
Yep,
need help. We
yep,
need help. And it's not that they're wasting money. It's not that they're doing a bad job. Kids are getting great educations in Hoboken public schools. More and more families are staying, but it just seems unsustainable that 25, 27% tax
yes,
hikes year over year are being spent just to keep up. And it's not this is not the case in other counties. This is not the case
no,
in other parts of the state. You see there's fine public schools, but it's not as pricey for us. So the
no,
formula is really hurting Hoboken and Jersey City
really
taxpayers.
hurting. And part of that, and part of it is none of this is unfortunately easy. Some of that is that we've seen double-digit healthcare costs increase, and but so that has to be fixed as well, and how we fix our healthcare plans for the public sector and teachers. But you're absolutely right that even everywhere has healthcare costs increase, but everywhere is not seeing the hits that we are.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, and people like to yell at their council people. I mean, they see us more, we're
yeah,
more visible, they come to
yep.
our meetings more, we hear from them more, and the frustration is palpable. And I do have a question, which I'm going to answer
Sure.
after you leave me, about someone's tax bill. So, I mean, you're welcome to stick around if you want to listen to it, but I kind of do like my own little Hoboken stuff after I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
my guests. But yeah. So are there any other issues that you want to talk about, or did you answer that
Those
this one?
are those are my kind of favorite ones. There's
Yeah,
the housing, transit, education. There are things in the works to try and rein in healthcare costs and be really creative about that. There's lots of bills. I will say that a lot of the kind of best bills, and they may not be super flashy, they come from constituents. So please let me know. I've had numerous people reach out because they have problems with licensing issues, whether it's getting their counseling license or starting a business. Please let us know. And that goes to the state and let us help. So we're
yeah.
working on that. Um, Anything from water to the environment to anything that has to do with PFAS goes through the Consumer Affairs Committee. There's all kinds of good stuff that we're working on.
And PFAS are the forever
That's
chemicals
right.
that are carcinogenic and are
Yeah,
real
yeah, but
really
there's
problematic for
and
human
some of
health.
the tech stuff too, making sure that data centers have to create and pay for their own energy, so it's not falling on ratepayers. That's a big one with this hot summer, making energy more cost effective and just efficient in general. We've got There was surveillance pricing that was also driving up grocery costs for folks. That has now been banned. There's some good news out there.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Katie, thanks so much for making the time in the middle of a hot summer to talk
Of
to
course.
me. If folks, you mentioned that you are looking for people to get in touch with you. and you're looking for good ideas. And of course, if I get any, I'm happy to pass them along. But if someone wants to contact you directly, what's the best
Yeah,
way for them to do that?
yeah. We have 2 offices. I am usually at 35 Journal Square. That's where I am right now, Suite 528. We also have an office at 80 River Street in Hoboken. You can email me or, any legislator. It's always ASW or ASM last name. So ASW Brennan at njleg.org. And also my cell phone is 201-898-0605. So please reach out.
I'm going to put the Assemblywoman's address for her business, for her offices, 80 River in Hoboken, and the Journal Square address, her email,
Mhm.
and her cell phone will all be added in the comments section. So if you see this later, you want to refer back to it, you can.
Thanks.
Katie, thanks so much. You're doing awesome work in Trenton, and we really appreciate. We're lucky to have you representing
Thanks.
us.
Thanks, Phil. Well, thank you,
Have a
everyone,
good
and hope
rest of your
to
summer.
see you soon. Bye.
See ya. Bye. All right. Well, thanks again to Katie. We really are lucky to have Assemblywoman Brennan representing us in Trenton, uh, and I'm really happy that she joined us today. I want to go to the first question I got from a constituent before I go through some neighborhood updates. The question I got was, I just found out that my property bill increased by 21.5%. This is after last year's large increase. Will you discuss the tax increase? I want to thank Arlen for the question and provide you with my response. First, I completely understand the sticker shock. If you open your tax bill and you see a 21.5% increase, that is a huge number. And people are understandably frustrated and looking for answers. Uh, the one important takeaway I would like you to take from this, Arlen, is the fact that the city's actual municipal tax increase for 2026 is 11.5%, not 21.5%. The reason why the increase looks so dramatic on the bill that you received is because the first and second quarter tax bills were based on estimates from the 2025 budget. And once the 2026 budget was adopted, the third and fourth quarters had to increase to play catch up for the full year increase over a half year. That's why uh, we worked with Mayor Jabour to adopt the budget much sooner this year than last year. Uh, in prior years, we would pass a budget in August, September, which would push all of that increase into a fourth quarter tax bill instead of spreading it over third and fourth. Our friends in Jersey City, who Katie also represents, are dealing with a much more bigger challenge. They still haven't adopted their 2026 budget, and their increase is going to hit them even harder over there. So, that explains why it appears to be over a 21% increase when in reality it's an 11.5%. But that being said, an 11.5% increase is still a big one. And I just want you to know, Arlen, that I voted against this budget that ultimately passed. The reason why I voted against this budget is because I believe that our annual revenues must meet our annual expenses. That's the only way responsible municipal budgeting works. So we either have to grow our revenue base or we have to do a better job controlling our spending. And I believe we have to do both. The big issue that we face collectively this year is that Hoboken has been kicking a can down the road for many, many years, which has been repeatedly using our savings and our surplus to plug holes in our budget instead of making sure that our recurring revenues actually cover the recurring expenses. Going into this year, our surplus was roughly our surplus, which had been as much as $24 million back in 2018, had been whittled down to 10 million by basically rating it so that politicians can say, I kept your taxes down, but they're essentially robbing Peter to pay Paul by rating the surplus, which needs to be adequately maintained. The chickens came home to roost on this when Standard and Poor's in February put us on a negative downward rating watch uh, based on the fact that we had not had adequate surpluses sustained as should be pursuant to proper municipal governance practices. So we have to fix that. And because the alternative of continuing to rate our surplus and not have adequately funded surplus is that we're facing a credit downgrade risk, so that borrowing for things like roads, flood infrastructure, or emergency work, the kind of repairs that need to be done, where we have to bond for it rather than tax for it, becomes even more expensive. I also think we need to talk about the Board of Ed portion of the tax bill. As I mentioned to Assemblywoman Brennan, uh, we've seen double-digit tax increases from the Board of Ed over the last few years, to the point that right now the single biggest line item on our bill, on our tax bill, is the Board of Education. So that is a significant issue for us right now. And I'm a supporter of public schools. My mom was a member of the Board of Education in the town that I grew up in. I was educated in public schools, but let's be clear. The mayor and the city council have no control over the Board of Education budget or its tax levy. But those increases are very real, and they make up about a third of your tax bill. And they are a major reason why residents are feeling so much pressure when they open their tax bills, because of the Board of Education and their budget. Again, I think they're doing great work over there. And I'm very happy to hear Assemblywoman Brennan say that she is going to be working on seeing to fix the school formula, so that school districts like Hoboken's and Jersey Cities are treated more fairly by the state. But we need to adequately fund our kids' public school education, and they're getting great educations. I went to the high school graduation in June, and it was amazing. There's incredible things happening in our high school, and more families are choosing to stay, and that's good for everybody. But we've got to see if there's a way to make it less fiscally burdensome. And I hope Assemblywoman Brennan makes progress on this score, because it's really important for all of us. Uh, Going forward, the answer can't be uh, for the city, and frankly for the Board of Ed, to have double-digit tax increases every year. We need to find real savings from the city. We need to look seriously at our labor agreements and other expenses. We need to identify new sources of revenue and make sure the city is operating on structurally sound financial footing. I sponsored a resolution asking the administration to re-engage with all the labor unions in the city, and I was happy that that was unanimously passed by my colleagues. I know the city and the mayor share that uh, concern, and I know they're working on it as well. So I absolutely understand, Arlen, how residents are frustrated. I am too. That's why I voted no on the budget. And that's why I think we need to make some difficult structural changes now, so we're not having this exact same conversation again next year. And frankly, I hope that when February rolls around, the Standard and Poor's does not give us a downgrade, because we have tried to do better in terms of having a better funded surplus. I just don't think that we made enough progress yet on this score. 15th Street is finally looking good. I'm gonna take one more shot at trying to share a picture. I have not had much luck on this score today, but I'm gonna try one more time. Let's see if I can do it. Getting a scrolling arrow. Well, while I'm seeing if it can pull it up, I will just say that for months and months and months, the question that I've heard from so many constituents, I mean, this is really years now, is when is 15th Street going to get fixed? And I'm excited to say that head over to you can head over to uh, you can head over to 15th Street and check it out for yourself. It's actually flat. It is. I'm going to try one more time for slides. It is looking good. Uh, there, I mean, this is something that, if you drive on Adams or Jefferson and you're heading over onto 15th Street, you know that there's been like a lip where you have to actually go over the road to try and let's see if I can get it here. There we go. All right, so there, there we go. But so there it is. There's 15th Street, ladies and gentlemen. It is flat. It is paved. There is a protected bike lane that's being constructed. and it's really remarkable. Uh, some people would refer to 16. No one ever asked me when 16th Street going to get fixed, but I went there this weekend. You can check that out too. Believe it or not, 16th Street is also paved. It is no longer like a lunar uh, zone. And let me just back up and just show you a few pictures before we go back. That is Katie and me going door to door. That's Katie on election night when she won. That's Katie testifying as a victim of sexual harassment and before Trenton. This is the bill signing ceremony. Katie's there on the right, and there's Mayor Solomon and the leaders of 32BJ SEIU. So there we go. So sorry I didn't get that the first time. There's 15th Street. Check it out. Take a look. Let me know what you think. I've gotten some questions about the design, and I'm happy to address those as well. 15th Street is not the only place where we made major progress. You can go take a look at the new benches on Washington Street. 17 new benches were installed 2 weeks ago. They were announced as a new development from the partnership between the mayor of Hoboken, Mayor Jabbour, and the Hoboken Business Alliance. There was a survey done. Many people responded to it. Based on your answers, we identified locations for the benches. And there they are. There's one of them. That's 11th in Washington. I noticed people sitting on it last night, and it's great to see these getting used. For our folks who have disabilities, for our seniors who've reached out to me to say that this is something that they really were hoping to see, I'm glad that we've gotten it done. And yeah, so that is what's going on 15th Street, what's going on 16th Street. Uh, uh, this weekend, there was a memorial for my friend Brian McCloskey. I just wanted to give a shout out to Brian's many friends and family who I got to meet on Sunday at the Hoboken Historical Museum. Thanks to the museum for sponsoring it. Thanks to Bob Foster, Bill Curran, everybody there for really having a beautiful event for Brian's family. Brian was someone who I got to know when I ran for office back in 2019, and we stayed friends. There were times when he reached out to me and I worked to help him, and he was a wonderful guy. A lot of people knew him as a bartender over at the Elks Club or just around town. He's just a lovely person, smart, funny, and his death was unexpected. And I just wanted to say to all of his friends, uh, you know, we're so sorry to lose that you lost a friend, and to a lot of people in Hoboken. Brian was an original. He was an artist. He was a creator. Uh, he was great company. He was a Mets fan, a fellow struggling Mets fan like me. We shared the joys of the Mets sweeps of the Yankees, and we didn't get to talk about this season, but I can tell you the only day I've worn a Mets hat this season was at Bryant's Memorial on Sunday. And I wasn't the only one. There were quite a few other Mets fans that were there. So from that sad note, uh, I have a happy note to share. This beauty is Micah Eleanor Freeman. Want to send congratulations to friends of Coffee with Cohen and friends of Hoboken, our former business administrator Jason Freeman, and his lovely wife Rachel Hoetz, the former chair of the Hoboken Democratic Party, on the birth of Micah Eleanor Freeman. Really wanted to end today on a happy and hopeful note, and we hear and see that Rachel and Micah are doing great. Big brother is also doing well, and Jason's holding up too. So with that, I want to thank again Katie for joining me today. Sorry for the technical issues. I did get to show the pictures in the end, even if it wasn't when you were with me. I wish everybody a great summer. Feel free to reach out to me if you had a question but didn't get it in. I want to thank Arlen for his question. If you have any, feel free to email me at hobokenphil@gmail. Try to answer them all. Be well, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and I'll see you soon.